Welcome back to the Business Simple podcast. It's your host, James. Today, I'm going to be talking about why you should never set and forget your ads and the reason why constant optimization is a non-negotiable. If you think you can just set and forget your ads and leave them to run indefinitely, I've got bad news for you. Stale ads lead to ad fatigue and wasted budgets. There's no room for that in a high-performance lead generation strategy. We've spent a lot of money running ads for people over the years. It's actually north of $20 million. And one thing that I can definitely tell you is that ad performance deteriorates over time. So the longer you leave a campaign live, the worse the performance will get. Now, I understand that people are probably listening to this, especially people who know a little bit about advertising and going, no, I left a campaign running that didn't have good performance last week and this week it's performing better. Sure. I see that happen all the time. And sometimes little more optimizations can have the same impact. What I'm talking about is if you turn an ad campaign on and you leave it for 2 months, it will not be performing to better 2 months in than it was at the start, I promise you. The key to running an ad campaign that performs well over time is having consistency of messaging, but regular optimizations as far as audience, copy, assets, things like that, just to keep things fresh with everyone. I might be really appealed to by a video ad, for example. And then there might be another customer who's exactly the same as me and an ideal one for your business, but they want an image, and then another one that wants a carousel. There might be one that loves reading and wants long copy. There might be one like me who hates reading and wants short copy. Or you may want to run ads to different audiences, and then you can use the same creatives over and over again. I.e., if you're targeting a broad audience like home buyers, you go 25 to 35 and maybe weight things a little bit more to first home buyers. You go 35 to 45, tip in some investor stuff. Then you go 45 to 55. You could talk about some different things that appeal to that audience. You go 55 plus, start talking about downsizing, kids out of home, all that sort of stuff. So there's a heap of different ways that you can optimize and try this. The biggest thing that I will touch on before I kind of get into my supporting stats are that if you've got an ad campaign that you've turned on, that you've just started and left, and the performance is good and you're happy with the performance, you just have no idea how happy you would be if you made some optimizations. And that's the thing that I would consider most as a part of this process is what you need to understand the true potential of that ad campaign rather than just where it's at currently and whether that's profitable enough, because Facebook costs are rising, and if you don't do anything to continue to optimize that campaign or improve performances, eventually it will cannibalize itself. Some supporting facts for you. Ad fatigue. Research shows that ad fatigue can set in as quickly as 7 days, with engagement metrics like click-through rates dropping by 20 to 30% in that 7-day timeframe. Continuous testing impact. Brands that regularly refresh their creatives and messaging see conversion rate improvements of up to 30%. Compared when campaigns are left unchanged. I know personally for us, we've seen far higher. The number one thing that I put this down to, and the way that our system is built at Digital Simple to affirm this, is if you see an ad 5 times, I understand that it's building brand, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm more likely to click on it on the 5th time than I am on the 1st. If you're running ads to an audience or you've got a high budget, and you've got a frequency over 2 months of 20 times or 30 times, you're definitely hitting a point that is past diminishing return. You will get greater outcomes for that if you have a huge variation of ads. An example of this is we had a client a couple of years ago that was spending, give or take, $13,000 a day on Facebook ads. And so that obviously, and it was majority to a New Zealand only audience as well. So we were getting approximately 5 million impressions every 4 days. And that client has an audience of essentially 5 million people. I mean, that's kind of being generous because you think they sold property. So how on earth were they going to sell property to every person in New Zealand? If every person in New Zealand on average is seeing one of their messages every 4 days, what do you think happens to the cost per lead? The answer is you can maintain it. But at one point in time for that client, we had over 1,000 different ad versions live to manage that budget. So you're talking huge volumes of work in to make it work the way that you want it to. But in return for that, or the exchange of that, was that we were able to generate cost per lead of sort of $20, sometimes even below it, across a $400,000 a month ad spend, which is absolutely absurd when you think about the volume of leads that we're going through. And they were able to keep an 84-person sales team fed with inquiries and opportunities throughout a period of time like that, where there was just unprecedented growth and just crazy things going on. So what we do at Digital Simple and our process, especially the one that is more refined that we're implementing now, is throughout the first sort of 90 days of a campaign, we cycle through testing different things to see what has the largest impact. We'll go audience, creatives, copy, headlines, working in video, trying funnels, trying different conversion events, all of those sorts of things. And across that, you might have 10 different things that you can test. We'll do them one at a time to create a fair test at each step. And then ideally by the end of that kind of 90-day window where we might have done a week or two on each of these steps, we'll have a pretty good idea as to what the best possible outcome for a client's campaign is, because we've kind of tried everything and we know that short form copy works better. So then we try different headlines. We know this headline works better. So then we try video versus images. We know video works better. We go through and we test all the stuff and we have a bit of an equation by the end of it of the maximum outcomes they can get. We then use that as our benchmark and we set out to try to beat it. And so with that, that's when it gets turned over to the ads person and their brilliance and their capability becomes a little bit more relevant. They then set out and they try to top that benchmark by creating something that at a cost per result that we haven't had before, or an outcome that we haven't been able to achieve in the past. If you just optimize and you only replace, say, one thing, like creatives, you will still have a better outcome than someone who doesn't optimize. But I strongly, strongly suggest that you test multiple things and not just one or two of them, especially conversions and audiences and things like that I often feel are forgotten. I hope that explains optimization in a way that you can understand it and implement it in what you're doing to achieve better outcomes. If you found this valuable, make sure you share it with someone else who might. Subscribe to YouTube channel and Spotify. Follow us on social media, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you very much for listening.